All right, friends, we're back with your favorite weekly podcast. This is Location Weekly. It's episode number 630. We're recording a little earlier this time on the 21st of July. And as you can see, Aubriana, as she alluded to last week, is now on her vacation in somewhere in South America. Because it wasn't hot enough in New York, so she had to go somewhere warmer, I guess. I don't know, but she's having a good time, I hope. So instead, we have Karsten joining us this week from Munich, and yeah. So how are you? Welcome.
Thank you very much for having you on the show again. It's amazing. So it's summertime, so we have a lot of fun with the kids outside. A lot of festivals are going on. So right now our culture festival in the town I live is ongoing called Sinflu with a lot of rain. Technically we have thunderstorms at this event a lot of time. So this is what they call that Sinflut. So a lot of cultural things. So amazing, yeah. And heading to Italy this weekend to work from there. So it's good. I love summer.
Yeah, me too. And it's the same here in Toronto. It's every weekend there's like 3 festivals going on, all kinds of different food and culture and music and fun things happening. I'm actually leaving for a conference in Whistler next week, so looking forward to that, and kind of seeing about the latest technologies in the world of sponsorship. So that'll be interesting. And all is well. So
Yeah.
we have a good show for you this week, as usual. 4 stories from around the world, and as Brianna's not here, I will kick it off today, and we're going to start in the U.S. With a story coming out of the state of Massachusetts, that lawmakers there have put together a proposed bill called the Location Shield Act. And this is a new bill that they're proposing that would ban the sale of location data. It's first of its kind in the US. And it would essentially make it illegal to sell, lease, trade, or rent location data within the state of Massachusetts. And another interesting side note about this, it would also mean that you have to permission if you wish to collect or process such data, and that police and so on that wanted to use that kind of data would need to seek a warrant first in order to do that. So, I think this is interesting in that, we've, especially here in North America and in the US in particular, there's been a number of stories over the last few years on the misuse of this kind of data by law enforcement, by government agencies in particular. And, I think that's where the bulk of the problem is. I don't see it as a major problem within the commercial industry and use of this for marketing applications and those kinds of things. And yet, if such a bill, and this is very early stages for this, it's simply at a proposal stage right now. But if such a thing were to be passed, I think it would have very negative implications for the industry overall across the U.S. Because obviously other states would look to follow suit. So I know last year, for example, there was a misuse of the data, as abortion laws were changing in the U.S. And folks using data to identify who was going to abortion clinics and things like this. Not a great use case, obviously. Very bad one. So I can see, where this makes sense in those kinds of scenarios, but how you limit that, I think it's very difficult, right? So, we'll have to see how this plays out, but I'm concerned about this kind of law and kind of the impact it could have on marketing and advertising applications, where there are many good use cases. I mean, you pass a law like this, what does that mean? We can't have Uber or weather data in the state of Massachusetts? Not a good thing. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm totally agree with you. I can understand the idea to limit this and make it accessible to the right people and have an eye on it. but just destroying a whole industry or impacting a whole industry without knowing what's behind. Because the use cases, the bad ones you told about, that's totally right. That's not how we should use the location data. But if you see how much applications, useful applications, use location data to make it work. Think about Google Maps, all those things. And if you're not able to buy and sell this kind of data, then a lot of those applications will be gone and not useful anymore. So I think we have to have an eye on this. I understand this first-party data thing at the end of the day. So maybe bundle that, combining that, finding new companies who own the data by collecting that and own it for the own purpose. Yeah, that maybe makes sense to me. Well, we see it in the internet with the cookie thing, the first party data cookies. It's coming more and more. So yeah, ownership of the data, but this, I think, it's not the right direction. We have to have an eye on that, for sure.
Yeah, and to be clear, like, so in the bill that they're proposing, it bans the sale of data, not the collection of data. So, if you're a business and you can collect your own first-party location data, you're allowed to do that, according to what they're saying here, but you can't then sell that to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where it becomes really interesting, because, if you're an SDK provider, for example, like a Radar or, somebody like that, what does that mean? Does that mean like you're only providing your technology directly to the client and within the sandbox of the client? I think it has implications. And the other part that I found really interesting is that, if this bill were to be passed, they're creating their own law enforcement agency just to enforce this. Kind of weird, but all right. Anyhow.
Now we have to have a conversation at our next conference in Atlanta about that. So I think it's the right timing. It's 3 months to go from now when we meet for Retail Loco. We have to set up a panel with all those guys from the SDK side using this, and just to get an idea how they see that and how impact this their business.
For sure. All right.
All right. Well, let's come to second story. So let's talk about travel, and let's talk about artificial intelligence in travel. So our friends from TripAdvisor, they're collecting a lot of reviews all over the world, and they came up now with a new idea to use OpenAI's generative AI technology to personalize your trip experience. So what they provide and will provide to their members is a kind of scheduled holiday, vacation day, personalized for you based on your needs and what you want to see, and on their reviews, and it's mixed together and it's highly personalized. And this makes, for me, a lot of sense by using their data, because reviews are great for selling products, but using these reviews to plan your trip in a better way makes, for me, totally sense. So this is what we are here. So a good use case of artificial intelligence by planning your vacation. And if it's summertime now, so I think it's a great story to discuss. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. Obviously, they're probably the world leader in trip reviews and data, from that perspective. So using AI to, frame that up and create these personalized itineraries makes sense. It reminded me when I read the story, and you'll remember, like, several years ago now, there was a project that KLM did called Must See Map, where you could log in, kind of share your flight, share your destination, and then they would build you an itinerary based on that. And the cool thing about that is they would build this itinerary, and then they would like send you a physical map in the mail, like with this itinerary, like, so kind of a bit of digital and physical kind of blended together. And the other thing I know a lot from this space is that when you are traveling, and you're like looking for recommendations and reviews, the one source that we value higher than something like, a generic review on TripAdvisor is the recommendations of our friends and family who've been to these places in the past. We trust that a little bit more because we know them than we do somebody we don't know. And so I think if there's an element that could be added to this where they can incorporate, connections that you have and reviews that those people have written in the past, then, and the AI can pick up on that, then I think that would be even more interesting, right?
Yeah, valuable also.
and incredibly valuable. So that's I like the story. I think it makes a ton of sense for them to do that, and they're very well positioned from that point of
Yeah,
view.
and also think about the travel companies. So right now they're very focused on to get good reviews. So this is what they use here. Rate me on TripAdvisor if you have a good experience, those kind of things. Yeah, but if you give them the opportunity to jump into that personal plan of the day and say, right, I can buy this space where say, right, go to this restaurant in the evening or whatever, and you can just make it sponsored and also review because on what you need and what you like. That makes a ton of sense too in terms of business model because they don't have any other.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, so good on TripAdvisor. We'll shift back to now to again in the US now, and our friends at Whataburger, which is a very fast growing burger chain in the US, 800 locations now. They've teamed up with Radar, who we just mentioned, one of the leading SDKs, location SDKs within the restaurant space. And one of the things that they said is that from a Whataburger point of view, they saw a big surge in off-premise sales once they introduced mobile ordering back in 2019. And obviously, a lot of restaurant chains went to mobile ordering, because of what was going on with the pandemic and so on and so forth. But one of the challenges that arose from that is that being able to understand and integrate together the off-premise and the on-premise location based ordering together required some sort of location awareness type of technology. And so I turned to Radar to equip this. And this isn't new new innovation technology. Like Radar's been at this for a long time now. They've been probably the most successful at deploying this in the restaurant industry. But what I like about it is that they've taken something that let's say somebody like Starbucks pioneered in their app, where you could place your order from your mobile app and share your location in real time, and then as you were driving or walking to the Starbucks, they knew how far away you were, and then the baristas could start to make your coffee, your order, and have it ready just as you walk in the door. So it's kind of like real time and fresh and ready to go. And that's essentially the kind of technology that we're talking about here: is real time pickup and estimation of arrival times, automatic detection of the individual has arrived. And that enables the restaurants to streamline their experience and reduce waste and those kinds of things. So I think this is, and it's integrated to display that data on their digital displays in the kitchens and those kinds of things with the arrival times and all of that. So I think this makes a lot of sense. As I said, Radar has to me the most comprehensive sort of SDK in that category. And provides very good geofencing, location, and analytics around that. So I think it's super interesting. And I think that if I was going to add one piece to this, is it's one thing to kind of understand your customers, and maybe going back to the discussion of the Massachusetts thing earlier, but it's another thing to understand like where else those people are going. Are they going to other competitive burger chains or taco places or those kinds of things? And so I think a combination of your data and external data could be really interesting. And we know that from my startup here at Ground Level, we do some work up here in Canada with Starbucks, and one of the things that they specifically asked us and wanted to tie into their app is up here, McDonald's, who's their number one competitor in coffee, twice a year runs a promotion for a month at a time where it's $1 for any size coffee you want. And one of the things that Starbucks didn't know, they knew how many people were coming into their Starbucks stores, and they knew how much they were selling, and they could do the mobile ordering exactly like Whataburger here. But the one thing they didn't know is how many of their Starbucks app users are going over to McDonald's while this promotion is on. And so being able to kind of, have that type of analytics, I think is also interesting and might be a place, where Radar and Whataburger, could, and others could find some additional insights. So your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's two sides of the story. You already mentioned this operational side, so make it more convenient for the customer and also for the operational in the kitchen, things like that. So understand that better and see where the peak times is, where they are coming from. Waiting is a big pain point, even if you order online. Food is cold if you wait too long. Food is not prepared if you're too early. So this is tough to organize and also get more ideas over the days where the people are coming from, because picking up on the travel to pick up a burger and then deciding I'm going to a taco place or to a burger place is more or less the same. But if you can provide this service, we will have you order ready when you drive through 100% or whatever within 5 minutes. So that makes 100% sense. But on the other hand, as you mentioned, so understand the customer better and get an idea why are they choosing your burger chain or what are they doing else is also very valuable. And without location information, it's not possible to find that out. You can ask them in the old way, but this hard way to do.
Yeah, and just to share a couple numbers from the story, it's been very successful for them since they implemented this in the first quarter of this year. Location tracked orders increased by 25%. Repeat orders grew by 27%. And what's the other interesting stat for me is 80% of users are opting into location services and experiencing a 12 times higher engagement rate compared to the non-opted in users. So these are all very good numbers. And it speaks to when you do it right and you do it, in a kind of positive, impactful, useful way, people, embrace it. So,
yeah. You have to tell about that. So, okay, the use case is we need your data where you are that we can prepare your food. Everybody can understand that. So there's no reason to that. No, I'm not allowing this application or this service to share my location data. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, so my last story for this podcast is a European story. So, there's a train between Europe and UK called the Eurostar. So, very fast, high-speed train. And as we are now in a situation after the Brexit, so the guys on the island left our European Union, which is the fact, so we have to handle this. And to make travel easier, they now installed those kind of fast check-in gates you may have seen on the airports. So in the US, on the airport. Oh, sorry. You seen on the airports, like, I saw it in Dallas and things like that. So we have your passport, your boarding pass, and then your face will recognize by a system or a camera, and then they check, okay, you are checked in, you're allowed to go. This is the checkout thing for a ticket, but they also add the passport thing on that. So we have this gate, the custom gates are still installed if you leave the European Union or enter the European Union, and the same in UK also. But now this system is available for the Eurostar, and after the Brexit, a lot of people have to show their passports and we have to collect data and things like that. And so there were massive lines, waiting lines, just to check the passports and things like that. So this system helps a lot to make travel by train, which is more polar bear friendly, let's call it like this, like flying, more attractive to people, faster, easy to access. And successful story from the aviation industry now coming into the train systems. So this is the story by that. And also what they mentioned is there's an initiative by the European Union that we have this passport border controls installed at our ports. And the system is also ready for that. So combining the ticket for your train with your passport, and the face will be your kind of entry. So you just smile in the camera and say, all right, this you're allowed to go. That's what it is.
Yeah, so, nothing to add to the specific implementation and this use case by Eurostar. I think it's a very good one. I think it's about convenience and speeding up those lines and wait times and all those things, that we know are problems, right? In airports and in train stations and international travel. I think my comments on this are more about the technology itself. And this specific technology is coming from a company called iProov, which is a UK-based company. They've been around for a long time now, since 2011. They've raised like $70 million in funding. And I think what I find interesting about this, because I think this is a very great use case of facial recognition technology, and yet they've been around since 2011, and it's only been in the last few years that we've started to now see broader implementations of this kind of technology at airports and rail stations and these kinds of things. And I think there's just been, especially in North America and in Europe, a resistance to using facial recognition technology overall from a privacy perspective. And so it's interesting to me to see like a company like this that's with great technology. It's been around since 2011, and here we are in 2023, and now we're starting to see the kind of the push of these kinds of things in. And I think for two reasons. I think one is the privacy issue that I've talked about already, and people starting to get a little more comfortable with that. And two is I think COVID also then, coming out of COVID now, drove into the market a lot of these sort of hands-free, touchless, technologies, where you don't have to like be touching things and be exposed to potentially, viruses and other those kinds of things. So like handling passports and those kinds of things. So I think it's the timing is good, and we're going to see more and more of this, roll out into the marketplace. It'd be interesting to see, from a self-checkout or, in this case, pass through from a transit perspective, how this continues to expand. Perhaps this is a topic we could cover at our retail loco next year in our Munich conference.
At the airport, yes, makes sense.
In Europe at the airport, so that could make sense as well. So, yeah, very good. Okay, so that's our show for this week. You've been listening and watching episode number 630 of Location Weekly. I want to thank everybody for your time, first of all. And I also want to highlight, as we've just finalized things here, so our next Retail Loco conference, it will be happening November 1st and 2nd in Atlanta. We're moving the venue, though, this year, as we've signed a new partnership with Simon Property Group, and Nobu Hotel. And so like we've done just in the past, having our last conference at Mall of America and our European conference at the Munich airport last year, or earlier this year, I should say, we've kind of are sticking with our new structure, which is holding our events and conferences in experiential spaces. Where you're not just learning about the latest innovations and technologies, but then you get to go in and see some of these things in the properties themselves, and how brands and how retailers or airports are using these technologies. So please come join us at Phipps Plaza, which is the Simon property in Buckhead, and at Nobu Hotel in Atlanta, where we'll be hosting the next Retail Loco November 1st and 2nd. If you're interested in being a sponsor, we'd love to talk to you about that. If you're interested in being a speaker as well, and tickets are now available through the lbma.org site. You can go there and sign up to join us. So we'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back next week with another show. Have a great week. Bye.
Thank you. Great to see you guys.